After a family dinner, Hallie receives many compliments from her father, who is proud of his daughter's recent performance in sports activities. Soon after, her mother asks what they will do that night, and Hallie replies that she will meet her friends at Katie's house. At that moment, Ren arrives, and Hallie asks her younger sister to answer the door while she gets ready to leave. Excited, Lizzie requests to accompany her sister, but Hallie says that won't be possible and, after saying goodbye, leaves. When they arrive at the location, the girls are greeted by Katie, who informs them that they can have fun in the basement since her father is sleeping. The girls then start drinking a lot, and Khloe says that Kyle ended up revealing to her what they would do that night. She explains that the teenagers will try to summon Slender Man, a sinister creature responsible for the disappearance of several young people around the world. Wanting to know more about this strange being, the girls decide to research online and discover that the monster can use haliopnoptic powers to lure its victims. Khloe also mentions that the origins and intentions of Slender Man are entirely unknown, and the only proven fact is that he always attacks innocent youths. While listening to the explanations, Katie finds several online forums about the creature, where she reads reports from users claiming to have encountered it. During her research, the young woman discovers the Slender Man summoning video. Upon hearing this, Ren gets very excited and convinces her friends to participate in the ritual. Worried, Khloe warns that this is not a good idea, and as she turns off the lights, the girl says she doesn't want her friends to be the only ones doing something so fun. Thus, the teenagers start the recording, reading all the instructions, stating that they must close their eyes and only open them again when they hear 3 knocks from Slender Man. Although scared, the girls decide to follow the steps of the ritual, and upon hearing the 3rd knock, they open their eyes and see the image of the creature in front of them. Immediately, the screen begins to show thousands of images per second, and after leaving the girls completely halihypnotized, the recording ends. Shaken by what she experienced, Ren turns on the basement lights and says that the ritual video is just a meaningless prank. Later, the girls prepare to sleep, but during the night, Hallie wakes up in the middle of a frightening forest with thick fog surrounding the entire place. Terrified, the girl tries to find an exit, but in doing so, she finds the same tree she saw in the summoning ritual. The young woman is attacked by the creature's arms, and this nightmare has repeated for over a week since the night they watched the recording. Days later, during a school trip to a war cemetery, the students talk about their recent nightmares while Katie observes the forest around. Despite her friend's concern, the young woman says she is fine, but as she looks toward the forest, she begins to feel a strange sensation. Before she can react, the girl is halihypnotized by the visions she is having and after a few minutes, disappears. Because of this, all the students are supervised by their teachers while the authorities try to find Katie. Worried, the girls try to contact their friend on their cell phones, but they can't, and the teenagers become even more anxious when police cars arrive. In the news, journalists alert the public about Katie's disappearance. While watching the reports at home, Lizzie asks her sister what is happening. Trying not to scare the young girl, Hallie asks her to keep doing her homework, and despite being curious, Lizzie obeys. At that moment, the sisters begin to hear noises coming from the 2nd floor, and when they remember that their parents are not home, they become extremely frightened. Hallie quickly prepares to find out what is happening and tells Lizzie to stay in her room. As she descends the stairs, the young woman enters the living room and sees the silhouette of Slender Man right in front of her window. Desperate, Hallie runs back to the bedroom and after hiding with her sister, screams that she will call the police if the monster does not leave her house immediately. Soon, the girl begins to hear the voice of Mr. Jensen, Katie's father, and feeling the man's desperation, decides to open the door. Upon seeing her, he demands that she tell him where his daughter is, since Hallie is primarily responsible for the young woman's participation in a hidden activity. Confused, the young woman claims she has no idea where Katie is, causing the man to become very furious and attack her. Quickly, Hallie reacts against the intruder, and after reuniting with her sister, the two run out, where Mr. Jensen ends up being arrested by the authorities. The next day, the girls meet in the school hallways and, while talking about the last few days, discover that the boys have decided not to carry out the summoning ritual. Tom and Kyle explain that they felt very scared about what could happen, which is why they decided to stop recording. With that, the young men walk away, and Hallie tells them about the invasion from the night before. The teenager remembers that Mr. Jensen mentioned something about his daughter being involved in cult activities, and Ren believes this could be related to the disappearance. During the night, the trio finds themselves in front of Katie's house, and while Ren rings the doorbell to distract the man, Khloe and Hallie enter through the back door. Depressed by the disappearance of his daughter, Mr. Jensen says he has never seen such a mysterious disappearance. And so they can talk. He asks the young woman to come into his house. Taking advantage of the distraction, the girls sneak into Katie's room, where they find several strange drawings of Slender Man. Soon after, they decide to check the closet, and in doing so, they find their friend's laptop. Upon returning home, the trio begins to investigate the last sites Katie had visited, where they discover various records of Slender Man sightings. In the midst of their investigations, the girls come across a series of messages from their friend, who spoke with others on the forums about recent events, to compare their experiences with other users. Katie made a recording of one of her hallucinations, where she encountered the creature in the forest. Worried, the young women continue to check the records of Slender Man sightings, not imagining that they are being watched by a silhouette right behind them. Later, Ren decides to access the girl's computer again alone, where she begins to talk to the same person who had contacted Katie. The user explains that if they want to recover their friend, they must offer something in return, and states that they will have no trouble finding him, as they are often being watched by him. The next morning, the young woman reveals everything she discovered to her friends and says that they must try to rescue Katie at all costs, even if the chances of success are minimal. Thus, the teenagers walk into the middle of the forest, and upon arriving at the location, they prepare to negotiate with the creature. Ren takes a ceramic object out of her backpack, saying she made it when she was only 5 years old. Shortly after, Khloe shows a photo she took alongside her deceased father, and Hallie explains that she brought the embroidered handkerchief her grandmother made for her the day Lizzie was born. Now that they have revealed their offerings, the young women destroy all their sentimental value objects. And after placing the missing person poster of Katie over the belongings, Ren says that they need to wait for the creature to arrive. The girl explains that when asking for their friend back, they must use blindfolds to cover their eyes. Since anyone who looks directly at Slender Man ends up going insane or being eliminated, the three wait for the creature's arrival. Upon noticing that something is approaching, Ren orders her friends to resist the temptation to look around. Due to fear, Khloe ends up panicking and, to understand what is happening, decides to remove her blindfold. At that moment, the girl finds Slender Man approaching them, and her fear makes her run desperately through the forest. Worried, Hallie and Ren try to calm the young woman, who is running as fast as she can. But before she can get too far, Khloe collides with one of the trees. As a consequence, the girl is quickly surprised by the monster, who is able to capture her instantly. Nearby, Hallie and Ren find themselves in the middle of the forest, screaming in despair at the sight of the silhouettes of the trees moving around them. Shortly after, the duo is surprised by Khloe, and upon realizing that she was not captured by the creature, they begin to worry about their friend's mental state. Despite this, Hallie says they must leave immediately, as they won't be able to rescue Katie that way. At home, Khloe tries to lie down to rest, but at that moment, she receives a video call from an unknown number and decides to answer to find out what it is. Upon doing so, the young woman realizes she is being recorded by something from across the street, and becomes even more terrified when she notices that the thing chasing her managed to get inside her house through the door. Trying to figure out who is doing this, Khloe opens her bedroom door and sees no one nearby. Soon after, the girl is surprised by Slender Man, who grabs her by the neck, making her scream in despair. As the days go by, the girls notice Khloe's disappearance and begin to worry about what is happening. While walking across campus alongside Tom, Hallie realizes she is being frequently watched by the monster, which appears from time to time in the forest. To learn more about Slender Man, Ren starts looking for information about his urban legends, and during her research, she starts hearing noises coming from the library hallways. However, she realizes that it was no one but another employee and decides to continue her search. After finding several records about the creature's victim patterns, Ren tries to contact Hallie, but at that moment, the lights go out and she uses her phone as a flashlight. Traumatized, the girl tries to find the exit, But just before she can, she is surprised by Slender Man, who begins to walk toward her. Desperate, Ren tries to run through the library hallways, but the creature is even faster and uses its powers to teleport around its victim. A little later, the young woman begins to go insane and sees the entire place distorting, making her even more terrified. At the same time, Slender Man appears in front of Ren, and after cornering his target, the creature approaches and touches her face. Because of this, the young woman completely loses her face to the monster, turning her into a frightening human mannequin. In her panic, Ren tries to scream for help as she runs, at which moment she collides with one of the employees, who asks what is happening. Realizing that it was all just an illusion, the young woman decides to leave and apologizes for all the trouble she caused in the library. Desperate, the girl rushes to tell Hallie everything she discovered and asks if her friend has had any direct contact with Khloe in recent days. However, the teenager says she has not been able to talk to her, as whenever she tried to call the house, she was answered by the young woman's mother, who said she was just sick and needed to recover. Sensing that something is wrong with Khloe, the duo decides to go to her house, and upon arriving, they find their friend paralyzed, staring out the window. The girls then return home and begin discussing what they can do to reverse everything they caused in their lives. Irritated, Hallie says she can no longer continue with this paranoia and asks her friend not to try to convince her otherwise. Upon hearing this, Ren feels furious and reminds the girl of all the things they are going through because of Slender Man. However, Hallie says she does not want to believe that everything was real and states that she will meet Tom to return to her normal life. Indignant, Ren explains that the creature will never stop haunting them, as that is what the user warned her about. Despite this, Hallie mentions that the mysterious person is just a potential crazy person, and that's why they shouldn't believe her. As soon as her friend leaves, Ren feels devastated by everything she is hearing and decides to go home extremely disappointed. Far away, Hallie arrives at Tom's house, and while they have fun together, the girl begins to hear noises around her. Looking at her friend, she sees the boy screaming desperately as his head distorts. With this, Hallie begins to scream in terror, causing Tom to back away and ask what is happening. After hearing everything that her friends witnessed in the last few days, the young man becomes concerned and tries to research the Slender Man summoning video. Hallie then asks the boy to promise never to watch the recording, and despite being curious, he decides to obey her. The next day, the students gather for another class in the biology lab, but Hallie notices that Tom is acting strangely and begins to worry, trying to find answers to her questions. The young woman tries to talk to the user one more time but realizes that this will no longer be possible, as the profile was suddenly deleted. Devastated by the way she treated her friend, Hallie tries to apologize to Ren for the things she said before. However, the young woman says it is now too late, and that the teenager should have listened to her warnings while they still had a chance to survive. At that moment, Hallie begins to hear Katie's voice coming from the hallways. After following the sound for a few seconds, she leaves the residence. Soon after, she notices that her friend seems to be lost in the forest and rushes to rescue her. As she approaches the location, Hallie finds Katie running around the trees and chases after her, shouting for her to come home. During her search, the girl realizes that Slender Man is in the forest with her friend and runs to hide from the creature. Despite this, she is easily found by the monster. But before she can be captured, she wakes up and discovers that it was all just a nightmare. With that, Hallie goes to the bathroom, where she begins to feel extremely dizzy. And looking down, she realizes that her belly is growing and several dark tentacles are starting to emerge from her body. However, she discovers that it was just another nightmare and wakes up to the desperate screams of her family. She rushes to her sister's room, who is having a seizure after witnessing something extremely terrifying. Hallie tries to calm Lizzie, but nothing seems to work, and the girl ends up fainting, which causes her to be taken to the city hospital. While their parents wait for the sister to recover, the young woman starts walking around the area and realizes that she is hallucinating, seeing distortions in the faces of the people around her. As she continues down the hallway, Hallie comes across a sinister silhouette and decides to keep walking to avoid any confrontation with the creature. However, she discovers that it was just one of the doctors, and feels relieved that she was not found by the monster. Thus, Hallie returns to her sister's room and is desperate to realize that Lizzie is no longer alive. At that moment, she notices that the girl's face begins to distort, and before she can react, the teenager is grabbed, causing her to experience a series of terrifying lapses and hallucinations. Shortly after, Hallie is awakened from her hallucinosis by her parents, who try to comfort her as she cries desolate, having discovered that Lizzie is still alive and will be okay. Later, the young woman starts hearing screams coming from her sister's room. And upon realizing that her blood pressure is extremely high, the doctors decide to take her to the ICU. Before leaving, Lizzie screams that she is seeing the image of a faceless man. And upon hearing this, Hallie becomes even more desperate, as her sister is also having visions of Slender Man. The teenager then returns to her home and uses Katie's laptop to once again investigate the creature's registries in the forums. At that moment, Hallie finds a video of Lizzie in the middle of the forest and discovers that the recording was made by Ren, who was inducing her younger sister to perform the offering ritual alone. Furious, the girl runs to her friend's house and, upon noticing that the door is open, decides to enter. Upon arriving at Ren's room, Hallie comes across numerous drawings and records about the existence of Slender Man. And she discovers that the young woman managed to find the person behind the user who spoke to them until now. At that moment, the girl realizes that her friend is outside the window and rushes to pull her back before she jumps from the second floor. Feeling devastated by everything she caused in the young woman's life, Ren apologizes to Hallie, saying that Lizzie pleaded with her to help with the situation, and instead of refusing, she ended up allowing it to happen. Desperate, the teenager explains that the offerings of sentimental objects will never be enough to satisfy Slender Man, because his true target is all the girls who participated in the summoning ritual. Just then, the duo begins to hear noises around Ren's house and discovers that the creature is invading the residence to capture them once and for all. Soon, the young woman receives a video call on her cell phone, and upon answering, she realizes that the monster is already inside and walking toward them. Quickly, Hallie rushes to lock the bedroom door, and together the girls stay alert to avoid being captured by Slender Man. However, the room ends up being invaded in the same way, and after passing through the door, the silhouette begins to approach the duo. Before she can react, Ren is grabbed by multiple tentacles that pull her outside, breaking the bedroom window and eliminating her instantly. Watching this scene, Hallie remembers everything her friend had explained about Slender Man and decides to run alone to the center of the forest. As she walks through the fog-covered area, the young woman comes across a mysterious gate and approaches it to pass through. Because of this, Hallie manages to find Slender Man face to face, and despite the fear, she orders him to take her away so that her sister and friends can be freed from his curse. Upon hearing this, the creature reveals its final form, raising several meters off the ground with its enormous tentacles. Desperate, Hallie begins to run, being chased by Slender Man. During the escape, the girl trips, and when she looks back again, she realizes that the creature is no longer pursuing her. However, Hallie feels that the monster is still wandering through the forest and walks backward while trying to find him in the mist. At that point, the teenager approaches the central tree, and before she can react, is quickly grabbed by the branches, which begin to imprison her in the trunk. As a result, Hallie's body becomes completely intertwined in the roots and tentacles of Slender Man, which become yet another part of the evil tree's trunk. In the hospital, Lizzie wakes up in a panic, knowing that she regained consciousness thanks to the sacrifice of her older sister, who was able to free her from the terrible curse of the summoning ritual. Over time, the girl understands that there is almost always a pattern among the creature's victims. Since she only selects people who will fear her appearance the most, the great legend of Slender Man will never come to an end. For every recording, photograph, and Hallie story told about him will increase his power more and more, making him the most dangerous monster that has ever existed.